So it is 9:25. Isha, are you here still or no? We'll take that as a no for now, I think. But if necessary, we can have the most senior senator serve as acting deputy, which the most senior senator now is Leah Tome. So we are going to start, hold on. Let's see. So I would want to start by going down this list and sort of having the senators, the new senators, say their name, mainly so that I know how to pronounce it, their class year, their pronouns, and if you want, you can also say your major or majors. So if people are ready, let's go down and do very, very quick introductions, starting with Mike.
Cool. Present. It's pronounced Mike Arkin, class of 2021, rising senior, go by he, him pronouns, data science and business, and the cluster and dance.
Great. Yeah.
I'm Ya Baker. I'm a religion major. Yeah, I'm 2022.
Great. Is Nadim here? Nadim is joining. We'll circle back to Nadim. Rusama.
My name is Rusama Hawk like bird, and class of 2023, she, her, and I'm international relations and economics double major with a minor in computer science. Thanks.
Yes.
Could you one more time say your last name just so that I know how to pronounce it?
Hawk like the bird.
Great. Sabit.
Hi everyone. My name is Sabit Kazmi. Hopefully that works. Class of 2023, philosophy major, and that's about it.
Great. Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda Liang, class of 2021, majoring in interdepartmental humanities, so self-design major, minoring in legal studies and mathematics. Wow, I was about to say outside of the classroom, I do whatever. Is there anything else?
No, you're good.
All right, awesome.
Victoria.
Oh wait, pronoun.
Oh yeah, you can if you want.
She, they.
Okay. Victoria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria. My pronouns are she, her. I am currently a rising junior, class of 22, and I'm majoring in international relations with a minor in legal studies.
Great. Okay, let's see if I get this right. Wait, it's Waleed. Are you here? I think Waleed isn't here right now, unless it's... Okay, I think Waleed isn't here right now. Sakila, I don't think you're here, are you?
I'm here.
Oh, you are, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, could you pronounce your name and say your class, your pronouns, and major?
Sakila Chungus, he, him, class 2021, political science and history.
Great. Rafa.
Hi, my name is Rafael Ramirez, class of 2021, he, him, his pronouns, and microbiology major.
Great. Devon.
Hi, I'm Devon Rogers, class 2023, he, his pronouns, major in political science and American studies with a minor in cultural anthropology.
Great. Iman. Are you there? Iman?
You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, unmute.
Sorry, I'm okay. Sorry, my name is Iman. I'm a first year rising sophomore class of, and I'm double majoring in political science and philosophy, minoring in Spanish, and she, hers, hers are my pronouns.
Sounds good. Leah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Leah. I'm class of 2022.
Can you pronounce your last name, please?
I don't know how to pronounce it myself, so call me whatever you want to call me. Tom, Toma, Tome. I don't know. I don't care. But yeah, majoring in political science and international relations with a minor in Chinese, and pronouns are she, her, hers.
Great, Andre.
No.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andre, class of 2023, rising sophomore. Pronouns he, him, his. Majors in public health and social justice with minors in bioethics and African American studies.
Yes.
Great, and I want to circle back. I think we have both Nadim and Walid. So let's start alphabetically by last name with Nadim. Just say your name, major, and class year and pronouns.
Hello, my name is Nadim Bilder. I'm a freshman, class of 2023, and I'm majoring for now in biomedical engineering.
Yes, yalla.
Yalla, let's go.
Great, and then Walid.
Hello guys, my name is Walid. I'm part of the class of 2023. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am majoring in business studies with the finance track and data science.
For Walid and Nadim, just be ready. You might get confused for a little while. For the most part, I'm going to be calling you Senator Nadim and Senator Bila, but you have similar names to each other, so get ready for that. Having said that, I think we've done some good introductions.
Can I have a suggestion? Can I be Senator Nadim?
Oh no.
And Senator Walid, because I'm Nadim. I can't have, like, you know. It's my name.
We'll see. For now,
okay, consider that. Okay.
I'll for tonight, I'm going to be referring to you as much as possible by Senator and then your last name. Isha, can you just do an official roll call? I think everyone's here, but can you just do an official roll call quickly? Going through everyone's name.
Okay. I hope I got all these. Senator Arkin.
Here.
Senator Baker.
Here.
Senator Bizet. Sorry.
Be ready. He's here. Be ready to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
He's here.
Here.
Senator Hawk.
Here.
Senator Cosme.
Here.
Senator Liang.
Present.
Senator Liverpool.
Here.
Senator Nadim.
Here.
Senator Ngshangase. Did I say that right?
Yes, that was perfect. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Ramirez.
Here.
Senator Rogers.
Here.
Senator Salimi.
Here.
Senator Tom.
Here.
Senator Tulloch.
Here.
Great. I do want to introduce one more person who is Laura Ballou. Laura, do you want to just say hi and say whatever you want to say?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Laura Ballou, and I serve as one of the advisors to student government along with Anne-Marie Algier. And I just wanted to log in tonight to say congratulations to all of the new senators and returning senators. We're really excited to work with you over the next year. Hopefully we will get to work with you in different ways other than Zoom, but we are still here even though we cannot work with you in person yet. We are here to support you all in your initiatives. We are here to answer questions for you. We're here to help navigate resources for you. Anne-Marie has been here at the university almost 30 years, and I have been here almost 20. And so we want to be sure that we can provide that kind of knowledge and history to all of you to make sure that you can be as successful as you can be. I will stay logged on and to kind of go through the speaker selections tonight, but please feel free to reach out via email to either of us. We'd be glad to kind of get to know you more over email and through Zoom until we're able to resume in person. So thanks.
Great. Having said that, we are going to enter speaker selection. So we're now in the first meeting of this Senate term. And basically, the first task of the new Senate every year is to choose a speaker. Just a little rundown on what the speaker does is that the speaker is in charge of the legislative branch, which is what Senate is under. That means that they both are in charge of running Senate meetings. So running these right now they're on Zoom, but in the past they've been in Going Room. And they also sort of are in charge of managing the projects of the legislative branch and all the senators and the committees and sort of running the legislative branch. So what's going to happen tonight is we're going to start with opening the floor to nominations for speaker. Anybody who is a returning, anybody who pays the student activities fee, so anyone who's an undergrad at the University of Rochester who is returning can run for speaker. They don't have to be a senator. They can be a senator if they want. And yeah, so as long as one senator nominates someone, they will be considered. So I'm going to open it up. Are there any nominations for Speaker of the Senate? To start, Senator Rogers.
I would nominate Typhoon for Speaker of the Senate.
Great. Typhoon, do you accept the nomination?
I do. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Senator Toma.
I would like to nominate Cesar Febres Cordero.
Cesar, are you here?
Yes.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Great. Are there any other nominations? I think Leah's raising her hand again unless somebody else wants to. Leah, you can nominate someone again.
Thank you. You put my hand down first. I saw that. I nominate Alexander.
Great. Alexander, do you accept?
I do.
Great. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I think I'm now going to sort of show you what the process looks like now that we have our candidates. So we have, yes, Rusama, or Senator Hawk.
I would like to nominate Ian for Speaker.
Ian, do you accept?
I decline.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we're going to move into the speaker selection part. So how this works, and bear with me on the technology for a little bit, but we are going to, basically each candidate gets to give a 5-minute platform. They get to give, then Senate has 10 minutes to question that candidate, and then there's 10 minutes of discussion without the candidate present. With everything that's lined out with speaker selection, Senate can override the bylaws and choose to not do exactly what's there. So if you choose, you can do more. Doing less doesn't require that. If you do more, I do ask, though, that you give the same amount of consideration to all candidates. So what's going to happen now is basically we are going to move into breakout rooms where each candidate will, like the candidates will be in one breakout room and the rest of us will be in another. Alternatively, people may choose to enter executive session, but I would suggest not doing that until, well, actually, no, let's not do that until after each candidate has gone because they can't really enter and exit executive session. So let's move to breakout rooms. This is going to be a little bit confusing, but I'm going to put everybody other than the 3 speaker candidates in one breakout room, and I'm going to keep everybody else in a different breakout room if you choose to stay. And we'll invite the speaker candidates in one by one. Speaker candidates, do you have any preference about who goes first, second, and third? I'll take that as a no, I think.
You can do it alphabetically or something. Just pick.
I will pick randomly. Okay, now I'm going to unshare my screen so that I can move to breakout rooms. Give me a second to figure this out, but I will be doing that in a second. Breakout rooms. Give me a second, hold on. So one room right now will have all but 2 people, and those 2 people will be the 2 candidates who are not being the first 2 who are considered. And the other room will have just those 2 candidates who are sort of waiting outside the room. Okay, so please join the breakout room that you're assigned to, unless you're someone who's not interested in staying and you're in the main room. Okay, see you in a minute. Alexander, I'm sure you can tell that you are the candidate who got put in this room.
I gathered that, yeah.
Yes. Leif, please don't play that guitar unless you are unless you're muted. We will now start with platforms. Let me just make sure that we have all the senators here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think we might have lost one who hopefully is joining, but I might just be counting poorly. So in that case, basically we have 5 minutes of Alexander giving a platform. So I'm going to have a timer on my phone, not showing, so that you can look at Alexander if you choose. And let's go to speaker view. And Alexander, whenever you're ready, I will start the timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, you go ahead and start.
Great.
So my name is Alexander Pavleson. I am a member of the class of 2021, an engineering science major, and I use he, him pronouns. I have been in SA government for the past 3 years, in 3 different roles actually, 1 each year. My first year I was the Deputy Speaker of the Senate. Last year for the spring semester I was the Chief of Staff, and this past year I've been the Campus Services Committee Chair. And I feel that through each of those different experiences, I've gotten to see various different aspects of SA government, seeing our shortcomings, our downfalls, and ways that we've positively influenced the student body. Also, I apologize for the grainy footage. I'm not sure how it looks for you, but I have a bad camera. So I feel that through each of those roles, I have been able to experience a different aspect of SA. So as Deputy Speaker, I experienced more of the legislative branch in the Senate. And as Chief of Staff, I was in the executive branch working with President and Vice President and liaising with administrators. And then this past year, I got to experience a combination of the both of them as the committee chair. And for those who don't maybe know, the committee chair is sort of a cross between the legislative and executive, in the sense that the committee chair often meets with administrators to discuss student concerns, but also addresses projects that senators are working on or legislative advisors. And I feel that the speaker role for me would be much more about the project side rather than rules or regulations. I see the speaker role as an opportunity to provide all of you with the necessary skills and resources for you to be successful in serving the student body, and that's what you were elected for. I see accountability as a major issue that SA government has had in the past. But I think that this year we have the necessary structure to be able to make a difference, and that really is a platform that I think most of you ran on to, is accountability to the student body, accountability to each other. One of the ways that I think we can accomplish that is through restorative practices that are actively trying to work on the way that we communicate with the student body, and that when the harm is done, whether it's student body members to each other or us, the student body, that we ensure that we're actively, not just apologizing or not saying anything about it, but that we're wholeheartedly addressing the issue. I also feel that I have the necessary experience to perform the aspect of the speaker role that is working with the other members of leadership. As the Deputy Speaker and as Chief of Staff, I worked directly with the leadership team in SA government for each of those years to try to address some of the internal student government concerns and to try to make student government better. So I would be really honored if you would choose me as your next speaker. Thank you.
You're done?
Yep.
Great. So now we have up to 10 minutes for questions. from senators to Alexander. I will strongly urge senators to leave it to one question per senator at a time. I will sort of have a running speakers list. Use the raise hand feature if you can. But yeah, we're going to go down the line and I'll start the clock now. So I'll start it with Senator Arkin.
Cool. So you mentioned that one of your goals would be to provide senators with necessary skills and tools to help Senate to succeed. So on top of your head, could you give a couple of examples of those skills and tools and how you would achieve it?
For sure. So one of the big things that senators do is sit on 2 different committees. And as the committee chair, I saw some of the shortcomings of the ways that chairs interact with leadership to be able to make those projects happen within the committee. So for example, there were projects this year as a committee chair that I felt I wanted to be able to support each of the senators in, but I was not able to get the necessary information or resources from the leadership team. And I think that was really just the way that it was structured. So I would like to redesign the communication channels between the senators and the chairs, following through leadership or administrators. Because if you want to work on a project that impacts the student body, I think that it's really great for the speaker to be able to be a project manager in that sense, to work with all of you to make your projects a reality. So specifically, I have some ideas about project management in particular, but then also relationship building. I think in the past, we also haven't done a good enough job of being social together as a Senate, and making sure that we're not just an isolated body, but that we're actively going out into the student body. And that's something that the speaker can have a pivotal role in, is actually providing the space for you to directly interact with the body, whether that be a forum or there's many different forms of it, but it's primarily driven by the speaker.
Great. Mike, you're done? Great. Senator Tome.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of your unique strengths that you would bring to Senate as a speaker? What do you feel like are some of your weaknesses?
So I'm a classic, like trying to do everything all at once kind of person. And so I would say probably my biggest shortcoming is that I need to find a better way to organize all of the different projects that you all be working on, since there would be 18 of you, which is, that's a lot of projects. But one of my strengths is that I have a passion for serving the student body and for working with people. In all the positions that I've held, my favorite part has been interacting with people and having conversations to make projects happen for the student body. That's really why I have gotten involved with student government in the first place, is to try to make a difference for my peers.
Great. That's it, Leah?
Yes, I yield.
Great. I have a bunch of people on a list still. Senator Liverpool.
Hi, sorry. I was also going to ask what you would say that your biggest weakness is, but you kind of touched to that.
Do you yield?
No. I would then ask, how would you try and hold SA Senate to be more accountable for the actions of others? Like you were saying, there were some incidences that happened this year that we all know, and last year's Senate did not feel like their voice was heard in the response to those incidences. So I would just like to hear your perspective on that, and how would you address something of that nature?
So I think a lot of this boils down to communication channels and ways that Senate interacts with the student body. So for example, if you're working on a project and you want to receive feedback from the student body, we have certain channels in place right now for you to be able to get that feedback. But unless you reach out, the student body generally doesn't know what it is that you're working on. or your project's the scope, they don't know the details, they're really being left out of the equation. So I think it's about proactively reaching out and communicating with the people who are most affected by these projects that you want, or ideas that you want to see changed. I think the speaker role does have certain elements that are changeable on the speaker's end, but there's also the element of, if there's something you as a senator want to change, it's the speaker's job to just make that a reality. So it's more so taking your projects and ideas and making them happen. Does that answer your question?
Not really. I understand what you're saying, but I was asking more about things that go on in the school environment that affect other students negatively. I can name, for example, the flag lounge situation. The speaker does play a role in being the larger voice for the body of Senate. So, and I completely understand what you're saying about communication channels, but I think I was speaking more to incidences like that that affect the overall student body, and Senate is looked upon to say something about it. How would you handle situations like that? Sorry, I wasn't clear. I know, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's good. I see the direction now, more wherever you were going for. So specifically, the speaker is a member of the leadership team that sends out emails and responses to issues that happen on campus. And I do feel that the Speaker of the Senate, if they're going to speak on behalf of the Senate, should have the approval of the Senate. I think that just kind of flows logically. But I would also say that it still is a matter of communication, but it's a different kind of communication, right? It's how can a speaker ensure that the student body knows that the Senate stands with them. If there's something that is done that's harmful, that there's some kind of relationship that's repaired there. And I think that's a matter of conflict management on the one hand, but also making sure that the student body actually hears from us. Like when the Senate says something, whether it be a statement or a public forum, that there is a way that people are actively involved in the conversation. And that if there is a harm done, that it doesn't go unnoticed is the other piece. Because I think a lot of times the student body feels left out of the response. Like they feel like they have things to say, and the Senate either doesn't hear it or they're not given the opportunity to say it in the first place.
Do you yield, Victoria?
With the rest of my time, I yield to Connor.
Thank you. My question is more about Senate specifics. So one of the challenges that I think senators have faced this year is a potentially changed attendance policy. So some senators, for a variety of reasons, weren't able to make it to Senate past our statutory requirements. And as a result, Micah made some changes. So what's your take on what should be done about attendance policy and senator attendance in general?
So firstly, I would turn to the people who would be subject to that attendance policy, and I would ask them what their needs are and ways how they feel that things should be accomplished, because I don't think it's fair for a speaker to create an attendance policy that doesn't have any input from people who are subject to that attendance policy. So that just off the bat. But specifically as to my view on it, I feel that a senator should be accountable to the student body. They should be showing up and performing their duties. However, there should be significant leeway for life happening. Obviously, right now we're on a Zoom call for a Senate meeting that has, no one ever thought we would be in this position right now. So we need to be sure that we're taking into account that life happens when we're making any kind of decision, and that includes an attendance policy.
Victoria, do you yield? Great. We have only 45 seconds left. You can extend this if you want, but Senator Cosme.
Yeah, just this specific question. You said that you'd make it easier for us to accomplish whatever things we're doing. are there any specific things that you have in mind in terms of changing how the Senate is structured? And also, do you have any ideas for how we could perhaps promote integration, like integrity within projects that the Senate undertakes?
So first things first, there should be some kind of public display of the projects the Senate is working on. I don't think a website just suffices. I do think there needs to be a public display of all the projects that the Senate and the student body, should be involved in or should at least know that we're doing.
Alexander, I'm going to cut you off there. So the Senate has elapsed their 10 minutes. Sort of separate from the speakers list, which I'm going to keep in mind, but there can be a motion to extend this if you choose. I will say that first of all requires 2/3 of everyone who's on Senate, so 2/3 of 14. And second of all, I will say that I really strongly urge you, if you do so, to extend it equally for all candidates. So is there a motion? Senator Tulloch.
Motion to extend the candidate's speaking time by 5 minutes.
I'm going to interpret that as a motion to extend the question period for all candidates by 5 minutes.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Great. Is there a second on that motion?
Seconded.
We'll go with Senator Liang. Is there any discussion on the motion to extend? If there's no discussion, we're going to vote by unanimous consent. Does anyone dissent?
I had discussion.
Oh, you have discussion? Go ahead. Sorry, Leah.
Sorry, I raised my hand like 3 times.
You muted yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm really technologically challenged, but I
You're
just
fine.
want to encourage everyone to keep their questions as short and concise as possible. Asking long questions takes a lot away from our time, and I feel like that could make candidates if we ask 3 long questions versus, I don't know, 7 short ones. So yeah, just as a reminder.
Yep.
Points of inquiry.
Yes, yeah.
So if we extend the 5 minutes for Alexander, and let's say that we only need a total of 15 or however many minutes for Alexander, and then we go on to the next person and we need more time, then Alexander has less time than the rest. Because obviously we could extend it for the 3rd person, but then Alexander's done. What does that look like for us?
So you are able to extend it beyond that. I would advise against it because it doesn't feel fair. Laura might want to pitch in, but I would say that generally, once you've sort of decided to extend it a certain amount, I would suggest that you do that same amount for all candidates and cut it off there. But that's up to you all.
Great, thanks.
Senator Arkin.
How would we feel about extending it by 10 minutes as opposed to by 5 minutes, so we don't run into the same issue again? And by giving speakers more time, we perhaps save some time in deliberation afterwards. Yield.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to extend by 5 minutes? Senator Cosme, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I do think maybe 10 minutes might be better than 5 because I feel like we might end up running into another extension and it's better to just go for 10 instead of 5.
Yep. So, yes, Alexander, question mark? Is this a...
Well, doesn't somebody have to yield to me?
Yeah. So I see Alexander and Lumi both have discussion. Senator Liverpool. Unmute yourself. Sorry.
No, thank you. So first, I just want to say that we should, since we're in discussion about this motion, we're going to have to vote on it. So we would need to fail it.
You could also do it as a friendly amendment, which was what I was going to say, but
okay.
Just keep going.
But I yield to Lumi.
I do just want to note that if you decide that hearing, because this is, I've been in a lot of speaker selections at this point. If this is, if you decide to extend 5 versus 10 minutes, that is a significant difference because if you extend by 10 minutes, questioning period by 10 minutes, that does mean that you're spending an entire hour doing questioning. Whereas if you do it only by 5 minutes, you get through everything about 15 minutes sooner. I would I would just strongly encourage possibly giving some consideration towards just 5 minutes, given that some of us might be in different time zones, and it could be getting, and I don't know if people want to be here until 12:30, 1 a.m., which is a little more likely if we have 10 minutes. I yield.
I think we're still on Senator Liverpool.
I yield the rest of my time to Alexander.
I just wanted to say that I would recommend doing 5 minutes, and then if need be for if you needed more time for all of the candidates, and you felt you couldn't make a decision, there is always the possibility of starting speaker selection again, which has been done, and going through the period of questions and platforms again. So if it really were a situation where you felt that more discussion was needed, that is always an option. So don't feel like this is the only time you'll ever get to ask questions ever. There is a possibility. I yield.
Senator Liverpool.
I yield.
Great. Just for your information, Justina, Kamel and I had a little chat, and we are considering you not yet president. Just FYI, that's the speaker's interpretation right now. So Jamal can get on the speaker's list directly if he's here. I don't know if he is, but you have to be able to right now. Except actually, what am I saying? You can actually be on the speaker's list because for some reason says in the bylaws that outgoing senators can be put on the speaker's list. So Justina, you can if you want. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Andre and Isha, help me out. I forget who seconded.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, Amanda. Andre and Amanda, would you both consider it a friendly amendment to extend your motion to 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes?
Sure.
Sure.
Great. So in that case, I'm going to consider this a motion to extend the question period for all candidates by 10 minutes each. Having said that, is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I think we're going to move into a vote by unanimous consent. Is there any dissent on extending this by? Okay. In that case, I would suggest quickly motioning for it again. Andre, Amanda, do you want to motion for it again?
Are we suggesting a motion for 5 instead of 10 now?
You can do 10, and then I'll do it by roll call.
Okay. Motion to extend. I'm pretty sure you said discussion. The discussion period.
Question period.
The question period by 10 minutes.
For all candidates. Amanda, I assume you second?
Yes.
Great. We're going to. Is there any further discussion? We're going to move into a vote by roll call. Isha, do you want to call the roll?
Sure. Let me pull it up. Okay. One sec. Are all the new senators here?
I believe
I think
Sakila
the one left earlier.
I don't know, but
Sakila left. Okay. Okay. Senator Arkin.
Yes.
Senator Baker.
No.
Senator Bidet.
Present.
Oh, are you voting in favor or against extending the question period for all candidates by 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Great.
Okay. Senator Hawk.
Yes.
Senator Cosme.
Yeah, in favor.
Senator Liang.
Yes.
Senator Liverpool.
Yes.
Senator Nadeem.
In favor.
Senator Ramirez.
Yes.
Senator Rogers.
Yes.
Senator Salimi.
Yes.
Senator Tome,
Yes.
Senator Tulloch.
Yes.
It passes. So we're back into the question period. We were on Senator Cosme. If you want to re-ask your question, you can, or you can let Alexander talk, or you can yield.
Do I need to ask the question again to Alexander, or if he knows, you can go ahead.
If you could just, restate the question if you're asking.
Right. The question was, what are structural changes that you think, like specific ones that you plan on bringing to Senate in terms of structure, and also, are there any specific ideas in terms of how you're going to integrate student body Senate efforts towards like achieving whatever projects we're working on specifically?
So jumping onto the piece about accessibility of the student body to each of our meetings and the content of our meetings, I feel that one of the biggest issues has been the fact that the student body has to come to a physical meeting at a certain time on a Monday and hear about a specific update during a specific time in order to be able to really interact with us. And that's certainly not a new issue. That's been a plaguing issue for several years. But I do have a few ideas about not only a location change, but also just a general approach. I think it right now feels very Senate and gallery, or SA and student body, like they're two different sides, when in reality we should be working together to accomplish the projects. So even just physically, like a physical change in the location and structure of the meeting, and ensuring that the open forum is an opportunity for students to air concerns, even if they personally are not able to come, or they shouldn't have to send a representative at a certain exact time to share their concern. So it's about ensuring that the student body is able to reach us through various channels in more ways than one. That's one of them as an example.
Senator Cosme, do you yield?
No, I had the second part of the question, which was, are there any specific things that you plan on doing to integrate like the Senate's efforts towards like specific projects in terms of senators working together?
Right. So this year, campus services and student life have done a number of pairings, and I think there are more, certainly way more, that can be done between the existing committees, because there is a lot of overlap in what happens in the student body. So mental health, is obviously a huge concern, and there are many ways that we can improve the stigma and the way that mental health gets treated on campus. Academics, international student affairs, like basically all of the committees have ways that they can interact with each other. And part of the main issue that I foresee, also, people please stop typing in the chat, he's popping up with my thing. So basically, I feel that there needs to be a structure for committee chairs to be able to work together on each of the projects that they're working on, and also for the projects to be linked together for leadership to understand when they're happening. So for example, if there's a mental health project going on, that there should be communication between leadership so that the student life chair and campus service chair are able to work together on that project without having to figure that out themselves. Like there is a coordinated effort towards that project.
Do you yield?
I yield.
Let's do Senator Liang is next.
So this is actually a follow-up question to a previous answer that you gave regarding like the question regarding of I guess like biggest weaknesses. So if it is the case that you're indeed like, have a tendency to overcommit and like have a bunch of projects going on, and like the difficulty is tracking projects, is that not like basically the job of being the speaker? And then in addition to that, if it is the case that like, that is something that is a weakness or is a struggle, how do you deal with this?
That's a great question. First, I would just say that having been the committee chair, where arguably one of the primary roles of the committee chair is being a project manager, and having worked several jobs and internships that are project management, I have experience with it. I was more saying that it's a weakness in the sense that I think it's a weakness for all of us, that when we're working on several different projects, we tend to either lose sight of the goal or to get lost in the sea of things. It's not that I'm not able to be a project manager. I would say that I am a fairly, I hope, a fairly effective project manager. It's more so that I think there needs to be a coordinated effort between all of the leadership members to make sure that if you share a project idea with me, that gets relayed to every member of the leadership team. Going back to the communication element, if I know something and somebody else doesn't, that's going to be a huge issue at some point, even if it's not right now.
Senator Liang, do you yield?
Is there anyone in the gallery to be yielded to?
Technically, everyone, I believe, is on the speakers list, unless Kamel still has something, or was that from too long ago?
I can wait.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I yield. Back to the floor.
Great. Senator Tulloch?
Yeah, just one quick question. I just wanted to know about what unique qualities you think you bring to being speaker, and that more than one candidate has had experience with SA. And I want to know, in terms of bringing new perspectives to the position, what do you think you bring to the table?
So that's a great question. And I would say that having served in various different types of positions in SA, that is one very unique quality that I bring, is that I have served in every branch except the judicial, which sort of operates on its own anyway, and doesn't have a whole lot of interaction with us separately. So I've seen what it's like to work with leadership teams. I mean, as a deputy speaker, I sat in on a lot of meetings related to leadership meetings. And as the chief of staff, I was a part of some of the conversations surrounding the public safety incidents that happened. So I guess my unique experience is one element, but also another unique quality is that I am an international relations minor, but I actually am an engineering major. So I come from, I think, a different area of study than a lot of other students. So a lot of the experiences that I've had have been related to engineering or social entrepreneurship and business. So the management styles and I'm in the medallion program, so the leadership opportunities that I've had are just from a very unique background.
Senator Tulloch, do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Rogers.
My question was already asked, so I yield.
Great. Senator Toma.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so you've been in SA government for 3 years and you've observed 3 different speakerships. What is something that you would like to see change with the speaker position?
So for one thing, the speakers in the past have been very, very rules focused. And it's not to say that the speaker should not be rules focused, because that is definitely an important part of the job. But I don't think that should come at the expense of the projects that senators are working on. And I think too often we end up in a very bureaucratic and not very open meeting. Someone coming in to watch our Senate meeting should be able to understand very easily what's going on and how they can get involved. And I think that that's definitely an area we can improve on this year. I would also mention that each of the past 3 speakers that I've seen have had very different leadership styles in the way that they've led the meetings, led the Senate, worked with each of the senators. So I think I would bring characteristics of each of those speakers, but I would say a very different type of speaker from each of the past 3, and my own unique brand. So
I yield.
Great. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? I have no senators left on the speakers list. Kamel is maybe on the gallery list if he wants to be. Senator Rogers.
I'll yield to Kamel if he wants to speak.
One point of information, Micah, is Justina still on the speakers list? Or
Justina took herself off.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this kind of is a funny time to ask this question after what you just said, but how do you plan on prioritizing the Elections and Rules Task Force? Please.
So I will say that the Elections and Rules Task Force is very important structurally to the integrity of student government, because for those who don't know, there's a task force that was related to the Elections and Rules Committee that was dissolved a few years ago and was sort of replaced with a parliamentarian. In the task force meets every, I believe it's 5 years, to discuss the internal workings of SA, our bylaws and PPMs, the legal documents of how we run, to see what areas we need to be better in. So that it is very important, but I think that's not something that should always necessarily come to the forefront of student government. It should be something that is done a little bit behind the scenes while still maintaining the accountability to the student body.
Sorry to cut you off, but that's the end of the time. Unless anybody wants to extend it, which I would advise against. Yep, we're going to move you back to the candidates room, and we're going to have 10 minutes of discussion on just Alexander with the Senate. So Alexander, I'm going to move you back to the Senate room, or to the candidates room. And Alexander, I believe, is no longer here. Let me just check to make sure. Yep. So now, is there anyone wishing to speak? This is just about Alexander, not about other candidates. Anyone wishing to speak about Alexander? Senator Tulloch.
Yeah, I truly loved everything he was saying. Definitely think he would be great for the position. Specifically because I think he's been through so many positions thus far. And something that I really want in the speaker is specifically being engaged with students. And I think him with his chair position, he was definitely very student oriented. He kept his ear to the ground, and he made sure that things that needed to be talked about and things that need to be mentioned were definitely known to us. So I really appreciate that from him.
Do you yield?
Yes.
I want to advise people to keep things brief. I'm going to try to post the list when I can. But Senator Tome, you're next on the list.
Yeah, I just have a question first of all. Shouldn't we move into executive session with this, because this is a discussion about the candidate?
You can if you choose to.
Should we? Can I yell to Camille about this? Sorry, Camille.
Oh, it's totally fine. So for everyone who's new, we do this thing sometimes called executive session. It's kind of like a private session. We don't take minutes. We don't go on our phones. We don't leave the meeting, and we don't talk about the details of what happened with anyone else after that. And we do that to maintain privacy and kind of like keep honest thoughts going through the meeting. So you guys can vote to go into executive session, and you can do it now while you discuss each candidate. Sorry, or you could maybe, like if someone has something really important to say that they don't want to leave the meeting, or maybe you could do it at the end, maybe for while you discuss the person who you want to choose after hearing everyone. I'll yield back to, or yield to Mike actually.
Leah, I would say that if you do motion for it, then we will be in discussion on that, and that will not count towards the time. Also, I will say that I would suggest then you would have to leave executive session to get the next candidate in, and then enter it each time and leave it each time. But that's up to you. Leah, do you have a motion or any other discussion?
I'm just going to keep discussing then. If people feel comfortable, like they can discuss openly. Yeah, I just wanted to say I've been working with Alexander for 2 years now. I've also had the opportunity to attend a leadership conference with him last semester. He's truly one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, if not the most brilliant person I personally know. He never fails to inspire me. And if I ever want to become like a person, I really want to become like Alexander, because he has this unique way of thinking that I don't think anyone else has. He always strives to get like feedback, and he truly reflects on what he does. And something that he always does is saying, this is the idea you have, how can we actually turn it into something feasible, tangible? And I think that's a really unique way of thinking, and I think it will get us where we want to be as a Senate. And yeah, I feel like he was born for this position. I don't know why it took him 3 years to run for speaker. I yield.
Okay, next on my list is Senator Liverpool.
Yeah, okay, so I am so impressed by Alexander all the time. I just want to say that I second Leah in him wanting feedback all the time and wanting to be better. in everything that he does, and he's such a good listener. Something that I was so impressed by was when the sad lamps idea was just an idea, and he made it into a reality, and it was like crazy to see it happen through stages, and like Alexander really putting in so much time to get this done with his committee. I think that with this new body being so new and so many like with so many new people to not only Senate but SA government in general, I think his experience and his plan for Senate, he would just be able to help us in the best way. I think that he would be such an amazing chair.
Do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Orrin Arkin. Again, I want to remind people to keep things brief. Senator Orrin Arkin?
Yeah, just briefly, before being elected to Senate, I really didn't have a clear idea of what Senate was doing, because we don't have any public list of what we're working on. It seems that we rarely ask people about their opinions before we actually pass something. And so when we pass something without asking people, it doesn't always go well. In addition, when we got elected to Senate and we had that informal brief Zoom meeting, we learned that senators didn't really communicate with each other well, and sometimes different senators worked on the same project, which was basically the same in nature, but they didn't know about that. So if the new speaker would be able to bridge this gap, that would be amazing. So yeah, yield.
Senator Cosme.
Yeah, I'd just like to second Mike on that. I think the communications point is very strong, and the sort of structural changes that Alexander wants to bring are pretty strong. I will say that I think we should still, obviously we're going to wait for us to get a better sense of who would be a better fit in terms of this particular Senate, and go through other potential runners platforms in order to better understand. But I think it's a very, very, definitely very comprehensive, definitive, strong platform that I think that could definitely restructure and make our work easier as senators.
Do you yield?
Sorry, yeah.
Senator leaving Senator Justina Gorka. Former Senator Gorka.
I'll keep this brief and then I'll yield to people in the gallery. Okay. So, my experience with Alexander is I worked with him on the all gender restrooms, and I'd known Alexander as the campus services chair. So I definitely, echoing a lot of points that have been kind of discussed, but I'll try to keep this really brief. So I definitely agree with the whole, thanks. I definitely agree with the fact that he's a very approachable figure. I feel like Alexander is very meticulous and that he likes to, keep track of things, and he's very approachable, and he definitely keeps track of projects and initiatives. He has that kind of personality. We resonate on a lot of similar topics about transparency and accountability. I think that's going to be, something that we're going to need moving forward, as well as his experience in all the positions that he's been involved with. So he is a very important individual in my eyes that has helped SA get to the point where we are now. And I definitely appreciate the work that he's done. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I'm just going to leave it at that, and then I guess yield to somebody in the gallery.
Lumi, Lily, Leif, and Rita are all on the list from the gallery.
Okay. Lumi? I'll yield to Lumi.
So to those senators who don't know, I was a legislative advisor on the campus services chair. I actually led the all gender restrooms initiative. And so just from the perspective of someone who has had Alexander as their chair, he has done an incredible job making sure to keep track of the committee's initiatives, and also to do his best to support all of us on the committee and our projects. I know that, and I also want to note that the all gender restrooms initiative wouldn't have been successful without him. Just going to a different side, I should note that I've seen Alexander, for his entire time here, initially through the lens actually of the Campus Times, and he is, I would say, one of the most dedicated people in all of SA. I've seen him start I've seen when he was deputy speaker, I've seen him take over from Jake Bernanke when need be, and he's done an incredible job filling in as speaker, and that was back when he was a first year. I yield.
Justina? Unmute. Unmute, Justina.
Sorry, I'll yield to Rita.
Sorry, I was just kind of echo what everyone said so far, but I've also seen Alexander come in as a first year back when I was a sophomore, and it like kind of amazed me all of the great things he could do, being so young and like so fresh. And like I was also really close with Jake, who was the speaker at the time, and they really worked really closely together, and I think he would be a fantastic choice. I forgot who said that, but I also don't know why he's waited so long to run for speaker. It was kind of like, you know, I think he was made for this position, like whoever said that. So that's all I wanted to say, but yeah.
Great. Justina, unmute.
Is there anybody else in the gallery? I'll yield to Lily.
Unmute, Lily.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to say that having been in two of the same positions as Alexander, following in his footsteps, that it takes a lot to handle those two positions, especially in 2 years back to back. Why I'm piecing out of SA after this year. But I think he is a really great member of SA and is organized and everything. I second whatever everyone's been saying. But just I think he's probably right now, for those of you who are new, I think he's the best person for the job.
Senator Gorka, or former Senator Gorka, there are 25 seconds left.
I'll just yield it there. Good point.
Senator Nadim, which is Waleed.
Yeah, I'll just quickly wrap it up. I want to say, like, being completely unbiased, because I didn't know Alexander before, so I'm completely unbiased. I definitely think he has a lot of experience, and he genuinely felt like a genuine guy, and I think he's pretty good at what he's doing. I'll finish. I'll yield.
Sorry to cut you off, but you can motion to extend. I would kind of strongly advise against it. There will be discussion on all the candidates in general, not just limited to Alexander. So I would suggest that we bring in the next candidate. Is anyone opposed to that? Does anyone have a motion? Seeing none, we're going to bring in the next candidate.
Wait.
Yep.
I have like a last comment, I guess.
We are done with the discussion on Alexander, so unless this is like a procedural thing, let's leave it for the hour-long discussion on all the candidates.
Sure.
Great. I'm looking at the time, by the way. We're going to go to the next candidate, so give me a second. Let's see. Is Cesar here? Cesar, are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Cesar, you have 5 minutes for a platform as soon as you're ready.
Yes. Could you give it 10 seconds, please?
Yep.
Okay, I'm here.
Sounds good. You have 5 minutes for a platform whenever you're ready.
Okay, with the speaker's permission.
Go ahead.
Well, my name is Cesar Emilio Flores Cordero Loyola. You can call me Cesar for short. I'm an international student from Ecuador. I do IR and business. I'm a rising senior, and I've been here in SA for quite a long time, since freshman year, so on and so forth. I used to be in Senate a couple years ago. So now I'm running for speaker because I want to, well, help you work. Because here's the thing, I think the speakership is not a position that for itself has meaning. It has meaning from you, from the senators. So your projects are to be my projects. Your objectives are to be my objectives. I'm here to help you speed up things when necessary, make them slower and more effective when you need to do that, coordinate your work. And I would love to, for example, creating a new vision for the position in the sense of making it even more open, right? Picking up from past speakerships which have been very good. But I would like to, for example, make myself available in a way I'm personally used to. I have experience not only in SA, but in other stuff, in leadership positions where I make myself available. And if you need to come to my office at any time, this is a personal thing. If you need to call me 3 a.m. in the morning and I'm awake, I'll pick up. If you need to talk with me at any moment, through any means, for any reason, I'm there for you, because that's the point of speakership, right? And I understand that I'm signing up for something like that. I am at your service, and I want to remind you, and that's part of my agenda, I want to remind you that in a sense, and also by the rules, most institutions in SA government technically serve at the pleasure of the Senate, right? You have a huge responsibility. You have a huge authority. You have huge opportunities to like build up your projects. And I want to constantly remind you of that. I want to ensure through this open means of communication that from the early moments of any of your plans and projects, even before they go to committee, I want to be keeping up with you weekly, if possible, briefly. So if you want to work in something and you already want to like see if you can get cooperation from other committees, other senators, someone else in SA, someone in administration, I can help you do that. Because a lot of times there's a lot of time and resources lost in problems that could have been prevented from the early stages of a project, of a bill, or anything. There's interpersonal conflict management that can be solved very early on. And of course, I cannot take a position in there. I am not there to decide for myself. You are the ones who are to decide. You were elected. You have the mandate to decide, right? I would be named by you who were named by the students. But in that position, I have to make sure that you are representing the students the most effective way possible. And also, I want to make sure that your voice is heard through the speakership. I, for example, pledge that anytime I have to make a statement or join in a statement as a speaker, thank you, Micah, I will consult with you whenever possible. I believe that anything I do, it's not by, I would do as a speaker, would be not by myself. It would be, hypothetically, if you choose so, Cesar Flores Cordero as a speaker representing the Senate. My voice would have to be your voice, and I don't take that lightly. So anytime I have to make a decision, and it is appropriate and possible to consult with you, at least in a minimal way, I will do it. And I want that to become a thing in the way we proceed. Of course, that's not possible all the time. Of course, leadership exists for a reason, and there's some things that have to be handled in petit comité, but we need to make it open, because we need SA to be open for the students. And I think it begins at home, right? If between the institutions of SA, we create that culture of openness, we create a culture of even bluntness at some points, we can do it after that with the students, because we need to integrate even more. And that is, I think, in the minds of many of the new incoming senators of the new president, to bring in, thank you, a student participation. We need to hear their voices, because if we isolate ourselves, and this comes from my experience, if we isolate ourselves, we become obsolete. Or we end up doing things that can work properly, but don't end up work properly because they don't reach the students. They don't know they're happening. They don't value them. They cannot take advantage of them. So communication, openness, and transparency would be the cornerstones of my work with you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off there. We're going to now move to questions, which is, right now going to be 20 minutes. If there's anyone wishing to speak, I will put you on the speakers list. I will start with Senator Hawk.
Hi, so I completely understand your platform and why you're so motivated to run for speaker, but I really wanted to hear more about your experiences within student government and how they really prepare you for the position and what you've learned from them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. So I began in first year, my second semester as a legislative advisor in LA in the Academic Affairs Committee. Let me briefly, make an outline of that. So I was there as an LA. I became a senator after that. I was for moments in ARC, in academic affairs, in campus services. I've been formally outside of SA, but next to it, working with the undergraduate advisory boards for the sophomores and for the libraries within Mavrinac. So that would be like the CV, as experience itself. But I think all these things, could be made more simple in like maybe 2 or 3 things I helped do during my 10 years. One would be, for example, a reform bill, let's call it. I actually passed with the help of many people, including Senator Thome, in which we reformed the structure of SA to make it streamlined, to make it more quick, to make it better for you senators. So for example, we eliminated the ED positions. ED positions used to be representatives from the cabinet, from the executive in the committees. We thought their presence was good, but not good enough because they took away some things that could have been done by senators themselves. They meant sometimes making Senate like a sort of second place power inside of SA government. So we passed a bill that you have secretaries in the cabinet, well, in the executive, and you have the chairs and deputy chairs because of that bill I passed. I've worked with Dean Maverick in the committee, advisory committee I mentioned, in a lot of stuff, like the ideas I've implemented, like the color coding for like how you call them? Sorry for the English on my native language. for how loud every space should be, of like improving the Wi-Fi connections, improving the plugins for power, for energy around the library. And I've worked in a lot of projects as part of the Senate committees, both as a lay and senator. I had the privilege to work with like things that were led by other people. Maybe I could mention when we were working, I think a year ago, in the improving of advising services, for example. And I think, for example, that one gave me a lot of knowledge on how senators have to work, having to stand up in Starbucks and like having to interview and take polls for a lot of the students, having to talk to like administration, having to coordinate with other people and the chair, having to coordinate with other committees, jurisdiction problems, because like you would have many occasions in which you don't know if it's academic affairs or campus services or student life, having to do something. So all those problems that you will probably experience in the future, I did so myself in the past through this menial work, no big things, but this menial work, bill through bill, resolution to resolution. And I think that experience helps me to, know what could I change for you that I would have wished to change for me. Thank you.
Senator Hawk, do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Arkin.
Cool. So you mentioned a lot of great ideas like open means of communication within Senate and outside, conflict management, like clarity within Senate, and so on and so forth. But you didn't really give specific examples or specific plans / strategies. So if you could perhaps, on top of your head, name a few of the ones you've been thinking about to achieve those objectives.
Thank you, Senator. Well, part of the vagueness of what I'm proposing, it's because I do really want, if I become speaker, I really want to do it with you, like with the Senate. Because like, then again, I see the position as an extension and a service to Senate, right? So I wouldn't want to like directly impose a sort of agenda on top of senators, but to consult and compare and contrast my ideas with your vision and make a plan out of it, which would start for me right away. Like after this all ends, I would like to take the summer for it. But if you want like particular ideas I would like to implement, well, maybe, for example, again, short virtual meeting times, not even like in person, like every single week, right? And twice a month in person. Like it would be like, one virtual meeting, short one, and then an in-person meeting, maybe half an hour, which each senator. I know that your schedules are long, but I think if we can make them productive, these meetings, if we can make them with multiple people. So if I know, for example, that senators X, Y, and Z are trying to push for mental health and they're having different approaches in different committees, I would actually make the meetings with the speaker joint, with multiple senators. But it would be trying to increase the amount of time in which senators and the speaker are actually working in these issues, which would seem like increasing the amount of time that it's like wasted, but I think it actually helps to, as I said, coordinate. Second, I would like to push for senators, LAs, and everybody who wants to help from SA to table around the school. like to be present around school, to create forms of communicating with students personally. So we could have people every, again, 2 weeks in a very open space, like in the flag lounge or in the libraries, sitting there and just talking to people and being like, give us your feedback, have questions for us about essay, give us proposals. If we have that public presence of essay, it would be wonderful for me because I want engagement with the students. And if you could, like as senators, participate and be there for your constituents, that would mean a lot to me. So I would like to implement, for example, that a lot of tabling, a lot of presence with students, so they feel we are there for them.
Oh, actually, a suggestion, cut you off because it's second question. We're like 1/3 through time, but thank you. Yield.
Senator Ramirez.
All right. So it seems that you've been quite involved in these last 3 years. So how do you intend to manage your time so you can handle the responsibilities that come with being a speaker? And I know you mentioned like a lot of things. Thank you. I know you mentioned you have all these things about like meeting with senators, but realistically, do you really think you're going to be able to meet with all of the senators? Because right now we have 14, but once the new first years are elected, you'll have 18. Do you realistically think you'll be able to meet with everyone?
Well, thank you. Actually, that's kind of my working style, again, personally. Like, I like to be working. Well, first of all, when there's like urgent or important organizational issues, I, of course, have to take time for them separately. So I have to like separate like 15, 20 hours if necessary, specifically for the speaker position per week. If it comes to that, easy for me. Academically, I know I can handle that. But in my academic time, half of it actually benefits me to actually be like multitasking. I like to, while I'm working in my own academic stuff, to have some breaks to work with senators. So like, I know it's sometimes hard for you guys to like make time. So I would like to take advantage of my working style of like managing multiple things or taking breaks from studying by meeting with people, by having conversations with people, by setting dates with people for further work during my like personal time. So I think I can handle it. I think I work that way. And again, I'm the kind of person who, like, if you need to call 5 a.m., if you somehow are a senator who wants to meet 5 a.m., I'm in. That's how I like to work.
Senator Arkin. Oh, no, sorry, Senator Ramirez. Do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Cosme.
Yeah, my specific question again is specifically, you mentioned a lot of things vaguely, but could you specifically say what ideas you have specifically that would benefit the entire organization of SA government, specifically Senate, to work together on issues that are already being like worked on? Like, what form of integration between projects are you bringing, like, specifically?
Well, I hope I understood the question properly. I think the way I could bring to push for what's already happening, if that's what you meant in Senate, it's trying, for example, to make outreach with past members of SA. So, for example, also trying to integrate, if possible, in the meetings we could have, in the coordination of our work, with people who already worked in past projects that are pending for would be the word for application, for actually like enforcing them, and I actually would like to make that a thing into the future. I would like to create a culture inside SA in which outgoing members of the Senate and in general the Student Association government, pass on their work and their tips and hints and guidelines to senators in the future. Because what concerns me about a lot of things that happen, and I've been seeing happening through the years, is that some projects, the school likes them, but they take 3, 4, 5 years to implement, and you need a couple of generations for, of classes of students to actually, work on them. And if there's a disconnect between those that go in, those that come in, and the ones that are then going out and the ones that are coming in, you need to create some sort of contact. And the only way to do that, it's by trying, first to create a culture of openness, and second, by setting a more organized, more intensive but still flexible meeting times with the office of the speaker. You know, I would like to bear the brunt of that thing in my office instead of in you.
Awesome.
Senator?
Yeah, I yield.
Great. Senator Toma.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so what are some unique qualities you think he possessed that he could bring to Senate as a speaker, and what are some potential areas for growth as a speaker you might face?
Sorry, Senator Thom, I didn't quite understand.
Oops, sorry. So what do you think are some unique qualities you can bring to Senate as a speaker? What are some potential areas for growth you might need to face or address as a speaker?
Well, I think that qualities I could bring is, then again, you know, openness. I like to be upfront when possible and when appropriate. I'm also open to hear from you, so and I'm available throughout time. You know, so it's that sort of, that's called transparency. Not saying that there's no transparency in being more close and having other styles of working, but you know, being available, being present. Trying to be present is something I could bring. Trying to create a culture of, you know, trying to be diplomatic. That's not something I think I can do properly. You know, trying to like build bridges between senators, because I think a lot of the times some interpersonal stuff gets in the way of the work, and I think I can help to build bridges. You know, make an amicable relationship, like being, you know, that person inside. Space for, oh, and an enthusiasm, I would say, but a space for growth. I think I'm a bit too cautious on times. And, you know, sometimes I compensate by doing more work and putting more time in the fact that I'm being cautious. You know, I like to go, you know, step by step, methodically on progressing on projects. But if we want to make it, say, more productive, more effective, if we want to bring this new way of doing things, I'll think I'll need to have like more trust in the people I'm working. I like teamwork, but like just, you know, take more risks.
Senator Tom?
I yield to Kamel.
Kamel?
Hey, thank you. Hey, Cesar, thanks for coming. I was wondering, how do you plan to prioritize the Elections and Rules Task Force for the next semester or academic year?
Okay. In the sense of time considered for it, in the sense of implementing the new ways on it, like what specifically, if you let me ask you back, in what sense would you want me to answer the question?
Yeah, so I guess like there's a lot of things you could say are like kind of like wrong with our governing documents or some of our processes, or at the very least inconsistent. So do you like envision any big changes that you'd want to make internally, or at the very least on the surface level of the governing documents?
Now, it is important, I think, to work on that. And it's a thing that, you know, usually falls in the parliamentarian and the speaker to work on. But my belief, and this comes from my time as a senator, is that, yes, we should give importance to, like, you know, bringing more coherence, more succinctness to the governing documents of this institution. But we just simply have to concentrate on other kinds of things, because we spent so much time through the years in SAGov in changing this rule and that other rule, which sometimes are not even implemented, right? So many things that have passed and are implemented that have not even been implemented, that it concerns me, you know? So I would give it a priority in the sense of like the elections task force, because like, you know, these proposals of trying to change the way we do, for example, the voting, you know, that's important, but like not everything that comes with like the rules should take a first place, because like, you know, what matters the most to me is the norm. If norms are taken, if there's a consensus, if people think the rules as they are now work and we can go forward with them, it's better than losing our time in Byzantine discussions.
Kamel?
Thank you so much. I yield. Thank you.
Leah, do you yield?
Connor, do you still want to ask?
Sure. My question has to do with attendance. So this year, attendance has been a bit of a challenge for people within Senate. they've faced a variety of barriers for them to do that, which have forced Micah to come up with some creative ways to change policy. What would be your view of how to change, or how would you look at the attendance policy in order to make that balance between your procedural obligations and the needs of the Senate?
So, there are rules in place already on attendance. And I think we should actually start pushing, for them to be applied. Because I actually changed my opinion. When I was in Senate, I was more for leniency, right? But I think if we actually want to bring over a new style of working in the Senate and EDSA, if we actually want to work properly for the students, if we actually take the mandate seriously, I would take very seriously lack of attendance. Of course, senators have their own personal issues. I understand. If there's an overriding concern, if there's a great problem, that's not enough to consider giving up the position, but it's enough to justify having lack of presence in the Senate, I will understand. But I think 70% of the time, such justifications do not exist, and we really have to take into consideration removal if necessary, because there's a lot of time lost, in deciding if we should consider or not consider removal, in talking to people that don't want to really work, in trying to bring people that are not really present, and even if they come, they don't participate in the debate. So I would really, sadly in a sense, but also earnestly and being convinced, I would like to push for actually, saying we can remove, well, you, senators, could remove your peers if you see they are not working properly. But this would be a last resort. And to prevent that from happening, that's why you need to create a different culture of working in teams, of having more conversations, of knowing from the beginning why people can or cannot handle their workload.
Connor, do you yield? Great. Leah, do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Nadeem, so we'll lead.
I will, very short question, and I would like the answer to be very concise. What value do you live by and why?
Loyalty. And loyalty, because and this is like a personal position I have on this, we only have two things in life, I think. It's our word and our friends. And we need to be loyal and transparent. If we lose that, there's no way we can work with other people or go forward in life.
Great. Do you yield, Senator Nadeem?
Yeah, I yield.
Great. Senator Leong.
Okay, so two things. Disclaimer, I'm gonna ask a very critical question. So the first thing is that so earlier you were talking about this cultural shift that needs to happen. I think many of us ran on the fact that whatever was happening in the past Senate wasn't quite working very well. Several problems, accountability, and so forth and so forth. So my question to you then is, you have this vision for cultural change. How would that actually happen, and why is it that your vision of cultural change is going to be the correct one?
Because it's not supposed to be mine. It's supposed to be ours. I want to run for the speakership in order to create a consensus. If we do not build that consensus, if we do not sit down as Senate and Speaker in the very early days and discuss, that's how we're going forward. Like, not only the ideas I've presented, but the ones each one of you personally have, there's no way of going forward. So I think the key of all this is not only the ideas I'm given, it's this work style, which depends upon being open to your own plans. I want Senate to lead itself in a sense and use the speaker as an instrument for the leadership. So the culture should not be Cesar's plans for culture. It should be the Senate as a whole.
Do you yield, Amanda?
No. So the part one of my question is, so if it is the case that it is a consensus decision, how? Okay, never mind.
Sorry. So that's the time, unfortunately. Unless anybody wants to motion to extend, which I would strongly suggest against. Great. I'm going to put Cesar back in the candidates room, and we're going to have 10 minutes of discussion on Cesar. Hold on, he's still here, I think. Let me just check one more time to make sure he's not here. Great. Is there anyone wishing to speak about Cesar? Senator Liverpool.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't have the chance to ask my question, but I don't think that there was ever an answer to it in Cesar's platform for speaker. My question was going to be, what roles have you played in your college experience that would help you be the best candidate for this role? And I think it definitely sounds like Cesar is super dedicated to being a support system for this body, and he seems like he wants to be very much involved in everything that we want to do as senators and with our projects and everything like that. But it didn't sound to me, and someone please correct me if I was wrong because I have been in and out, that he is necessarily prepared to be the Speaker of the Senate, which I don't know. Yeah.
Do you yield?
I yield.
Great. Senator Ramirez.
All right. So I very much agree with Senator Liverpool, and I think in general, I felt like he was very idealistic, very vague. The idealistic part, I don't necessarily mind. It's not always a bad thing, but I feel like there was no concrete plans that he had, and like it just came off as he was very unprepared for his platform in general. Like I was very unsatisfied with his responses. It was just in general very, very vague. I do not think that while he might be very passionate about like SA government, I feel like he may not be the best fit for speaker. I will give him that he does seem approachable, but in general, I just did not have the confidence in him in order to lead the Senate, and I yield.
Great. Just a reminder to be brief and to not repeat yourself or others. Senator Tulloch. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Not going to really reiterate anything. Definitely think, he had some decent points. I think his heart's in the right place, but I don't feel like he's the right person. I yield.
Senator Tome.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I did have the chance to sit on Senate together with Cesar my first year. So 2 years ago, I think, and I also had the chance to sit with him on the commission to review SA government. He has a passion for SA government that is basically unparalleled. He truly cares about how we can make change, and he's really passionate about that change. I do believe through his experience that he is prepared for the role. I think one of the biggest things in his platform was talking about that this is not that it's not about the speaker, but that it's something about that we can all do together, and that it shouldn't depend on a single person, but that it's rather in us. So that's maybe why it might have sounded a little bit vague, but I know that he truly cares about everyone's feelings. And I think that's truly something we need in Senate, where everyone can feel included and where they feel like they're part of a bigger movement. I yield.
Senator Hawk.
Yeah, so pretty much the same sentiment. The fact that he has a passion is great and it's very visible, but as much as he might be prepared, I feel like him running against people who might have a little more experience than him and might be a little better for the position plays a bit to his disadvantage. I yield.
Just to remind people, this is discussion just on Cesar. Senator Leong.
I think this is mostly a point about the process. I feel like we can probably ask harder questions. Please.
Do you yield?
I yield.
Senator Cosme.
Yeah, I kind of second Amanda, but also I do agree that he comes off as very, very passionate and committed to the cause. However, the lack of a very specific goal in terms of what he wants to achieve as the speaker, it kind of put me off a little, just to a certain degree, and something that I think if it were more specific or elaborated upon would have made him a much stronger candidate. At this point, I find myself very confused by his inadequate responses in terms of not exactly being sure of what he wants to achieve, but only having a vague, superficial structure, definitely a strong one, but which lacks foundational basis.
Do you yield? Great. Senator Arkin.
Yeah, I love his attitude towards let's all make up what the speaker should be doing. But from my experience on e-boards, every time somebody comes in and is like, hey, what do we want to do? It takes people 2 or 3 months to figure out what we want to do. So as his response to examples of what we would be doing, like frequent check-ins or tabling or senators collaborating, didn't really get much. Yo.
Senator Bila.
So just like one thing that I thought was a weakness is that he was too ambitious about his availability and how many hours he have per day, because like we as humans, like no one would want to pick up a phone at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like that's just unrealistic. And just the overconfidence wasn't something characteristic of a leader who has a plan and like something like big for a change that he can do in SA. So that's my opinion. I yield.
Senator Rogers. Unmute yourself.
For one thing, I understand the sentiment of everybody else talking about how he like prepared. I don't know, the Senate, well, the speaker position itself isn't one that is really innovative. It's very kind of the guide, the kind of pillar between the abiding by the rules and structure of SA or coordinating plans and initiatives. So it's not a position where I would expect a lot of innovative input or direction on the part of the speaker, because it does not initiate legislation, but kind of determines what legislation was on the Senate agenda. Besides that point, I feel as though that Cesar he does talk about his availability, but lacks the coordination between executive and Senate as a whole, and other roles that speakers will do within Senate.
Do you yield?
Yes, I yield.
Great. Senator Nadeem, so Waleed.
I just wanted to add, like, he seemed really approachable and motivated. Like, people are not talking about how approachable and nice he seemed when he was talking, and how motivated he was about everything, and like wanted to talk to each and every one of us, which I think is a really big deal, because not a lot of people want to see our faces every day. So I think if someone is motivated to see our faces, definitely consider a strong point. Just wanted to add that. I yield my time.
Former Senator Gorka. Unmute yourself.
Sorry. Okay. I'm just trying to give like a little perspective. I'm going to go more depth into discussion, but for right now, I want to just keep it positive. So I'm going to say, like, I mean, Cesar has been a senator before, and I feel like that is definitely something, you know, worth considering, because he knows, like, you know, your guys' perspectives, like he's been in your guys' shoes. So I think having that knowledge, he'll know how to apply based on what I guess he kind of resonated with past speakers before. Like he could potentially apply that to the position. But definitely I acknowledge the concerns. I was kind of off-put by the entire like platform. It seemed a little, I definitely do think that like some of the points were kind of a little bit extreme and very idealistic, not necessarily practical. So I do have to acknowledge that. I was surprised with the platform, and I'll yield.
Great. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? I have no one left on the list. If there's no one left, Senator Tom.
Yeah, I would just really encourage anyone who's still here from the gallery to maybe raise their hand to speak about their experience, because as far as I know, just Tina and I were the only people to have worked with him, and I've heard a lot of things from people that haven't. So I think hearing from more people that did experience him in SA government might be really valuable.
Do you?
I yield to whoever is willing to speak, please.
Senator Rogers can get on the speakers list out.
Okay, I yield. Okay, I give up.
Great. Senator Rogers?
Continuing with Leader's point, I worked with Cesar on campus service as he was in LA. I was newly appointed senator the second half of my academic year. Through my direct Cesar and the essay, working in the committee itself, he is vocal on certain points. From my standpoint, my impression of Cesar, I sensed the urgement and the encouragement he had here, but I didn't feel that same enthusiasm while working with him in the campus service committee, and that's all I have to say.
Senator Cosme, you have 15 seconds.
Should I just waste these 15 seconds confusing everybody further, or should I just say stuff that I'm saying right now? I guess I'll just keep saying this till we're out of those 15 seconds. Please cut me off whenever we're done. And
Great. We are now moving on to the next candidate. Again, this is the last candidate. Please keep in mind the time, but let's bring in Typhoon. Hold on. Typhoon is here.
Yeah.
Typhoon, whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes for a platform.
Okay, just one sec.
I can also hold it up if you want.
No, that's fine. I can set my own timer. Thank you, though.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Typhoon, and I'm happy to be running as your speaker. I'm a chemical engineering and political science double major, and I'm taking a Take 5 next year. So I'm first going to dive into a little bit about my essay background, followed by what I view as the essential duties of the speakership, and lastly, what I would bring to the speakership role. So a little bit of background about me. As a first year, I was a legislative advisor on the Elections and Rules Committee. The year after, as a sophomore, I was a senator and deputy chair on that same committee, which gave me a good foundation for the overall rules and procedures we have in student government. And this most previous year, I was a senator and have some experience on different bodies, including the Housing Lottery Task Force, led by ResLife, or the Commission to Review the SA, which is led by Dean Burns. And in my time as senator, I've proposed legislation touching on student life, campus services, academic affairs, and internal rules. And so I'm running for speaker so that I can help you do the same to accomplish any legislative goals and projects that you want to do. I think that that's my job, and it's a critical part of my job, which leads a little bit into the next point, because each speaker assumes their role with slightly different conceptions of what they believe their role entails and what they bring to it. So some things which I think that the role absolutely requires is training new senators and committee chairs to make sure that they are fully contributing members and having a comprehensive training process behind that. And of course, having an open door policy for any member of student government who wants to ask questions or request help or whatever it may be. And if I'm not the right person to connect senators or others to those resources or people so that they can finish their projects or whatever that may be. Another critical function is running Senate meetings and steering meetings as efficiently as possible without detracting from productive discussion. And perhaps most importantly, as speaker, is establishing clear lines of communication from Senate committees to the speaker and potentially to the executive branch as well. And of course, not everything can be encapsulated within a list. Those are just some of the critical functions I view the speakership role as having. If selected, additional functions that I would bring to the speakership role specifically are continuing one-on-one speaker-senator meetings to ensure that all senators have the resources they need. But something new I would like to bring is an anonymous survey to periodically get feedback on how I'm doing as speaker, because I'm not going to pretend to be perfect, and no one is perfect, but I feel that too often in student government, we wait until a problem occurs before we realize that change is needed. And I think that the painted tunnel, the earlier incidents of that was an example of how we realized that our communication could break down. And so this anonymous survey would hopefully just be one way to adapt prior to any problems occurring. Lastly, I would like to culturally within student government encourage Senate statements, especially as a positive way to show appreciation to administrators if they've done something right. And I think that this is something I've spoken with Leif about and done as a senator myself, that it's important to, I think, promote a healthy culture between student government and administrators so that they will be more receptive to our projects in the future. And lastly, I do want to point out that there's many other behind the scenes tasks which the speaker oversees or is directly responsible for. And so these tasks include, uploading legislation or Senate committee or Senate meeting minutes or resolving disputes between members of the legislative branch. And I think that as a senator, I've actively worked to improve this legislative process. I think that several bills to highlight were Bill 17 and 18, continuing bills to increase information transparency that I did with Leif. And so this established deadlines for uploading meeting minutes for 4 weeks, and then, or enacted legislation is being uploaded within a few weeks. And so no longer would students, myself included, have to wait months before accessing that information online. And there's many other bills that I've done to improve this process, and ultimately it's not legislatively required, but it's important because this is part of the process of just what a good speaker would hopefully be able to do. And so all of these bills, I think, underscore the dedication and high standards I have for running an efficient and transparent branch of government. Thank you.
I'm going to cut you off there, and we're going to move into questions. We have 20 minutes of questions because we extended that period. Is there anyone wishing to ask a question? Senator Arkin.
Cool. So you talked about great ideas like transparency within the student government, making sure that they actually are kept accountable. And you brought a couple of examples, but could you perhaps elaborate and talk and give a few more examples about how you would achieve this transparency within the Senate and how specifically you would work with the student body beyond the anonymous survey and beyond like posting minutes to the Google Drive?
Okay, so one way that the Speaker of the Senate would be interacting with the student body is whenever they sign their name to an email, and sometimes like it would be the president, the vice president, and the Speaker of the Senate would all sign an email. It would go out to the student body. And so there was an incident this year where, I'm sorry, Micah, where the senators, they felt displeased that when Micah signed something, it didn't represent what their feeling was. And so I led a Senate bill with former Senator Christopher Liu to require that the Speaker communicate with senators ahead of time and share that email before it's sent out. Because I think that my job is to make sure that in anything that I do publicly that the students see, senators also should be aware. And so that bill is not yet uploaded, but will be. It was signed by Jamal. Yeah, Micah's nodding his head. And that's one thing as the head of legislative branch. I think it's very important to always be speaking for the Senate and not speaking for myself.
Yield.
Great. Senator Nadim, so that's Waleed.
I would just like to ask one value that you live by and why.
Persistence. I'm definitely a persistent person, and I'm a bit proud of it. You know, whether I had to this year email an administrator 4 times over the span of 2 months to get a response, I don't like to let things slide, and I really like to have follow through to actually get things done. So I think that if there's one thing that I really live by, it's definitely persistence and follow through.
Thank you. I would like to yield my time.
Senator Salimi.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask, you said that you wanted to work with senators one-on-one and like have meetings with them to further their own projects. Just like a lot of the senators are obviously going to be working on projects that kind of might have the same elements as like other projects that like Senate's already working on too. So how do you like plan on kind of unifying all of them so we don't have like different projects about the same thing happening at the same time, and we kind of have like a more organized form like of Senate taking place? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that absolutely made sense. And so I think that's one of the really important things that the executive branch and the Speaker establish at the outset, that there's a communication infrastructure within student government. There isn't necessarily one perfect size fits all, and different years work differently, but there needs to be an infrastructure of communication so that, you know, sometimes Senate committees, they have jurisdictions which projects could fall under either one. And so it's important that they're communicating with each other, that any projects happening within a committee, those committee chairs are happening with each other, and that those committee chairs are clearly articulating all the projects to the speaker. And so that's kind of the hierarchy that I would imagine it going by. But as well, all of the meeting minutes by each of the committees are available as well, which I would want to check and hopefully catch anything there if I didn't catch anything in weekly or bi-weekly meetings with committee chairs.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I yield my time, yeah.
Senator Liang.
Hi. As always, disclaimer, tend to ask very critical questions. So what do you think sets you apart? You obviously know who you're running against. What do you think sets you apart from them?
That's a good question. I think that it would be definitely my experience in the rules and procedures, while also I think that I've just worked in so many different areas in student government and have an idea of some of the advocacy that goes behind it to administration. That's one thing that sets me apart. But I can as well speak to some of the qualities and characteristics I bring as being a very, very productive person as well, being persistent and trying to be communicative always and always.
Okay, follow-up question. Do you believe that the bureaucracy is a burden?
Yes. But I imagine you want me to say more. Is it good that it's a burden? Sometimes I view the process of legislation appearing on steering committee before it reaches Senate as actually a beneficial process, because there's an extra set of eyes looking at it. And at the same time, I don't think that being too burdensome is necessary. I just passed a bill like 2 hours ago that would hopefully remove a lot of the burden on the new Senate for how to write legislation, because it was so confusing. And Ian and I would go back and forth, and it was a disaster. So I think that there's the bureaucracy is there for a reason in some cases, but it can be minimized in other cases.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Senator Tome.
Yeah, just one question I have. Obviously, something that we've experienced this year and sometimes in past years too is that there can be a gridlock between the executive and the legislative branch or the Senate. How would you go about handling if there are tensions between the different branches or different actors within SA government?
Yeah, so I think that it's a little bit dependent on what the case would be, but generally, I would try to set up a meeting and just to talk it out. I mean, it sounds so simple, but that is how I've been able to resolve some communication issues even this year with the executive branch, is just setting up a meeting, because it can often be miscommunication. If it's not resolved like that, then unfortunately, then the SA advisors are always there for a reason and are there to help us to step in and provide guidance as well. That's part of the way that hopefully tensions could be resolved. I think that there are a lot of ways to promote a positive culture within student government, and hopefully that would prevent anything like that from occurring.
Senator
Cool, thank you, I yield.
Senator Cosme.
Yes, you're clearly very organized in terms of what you want to do, but what is one problem that you can sort of foresee that you may have to deal with as a speaker, and how do you think you could actually deal with said problem in terms of a genuine, real problem that might hinder any work that Senate is trying to do actively, especially considering that we are technically in a pandemic and everything's kind of frozen?
All right, so assuming that the pandemic is over and we're all in person for the fall semester, one genuine problem I have is that some senators, I think, unfortunately, they don't feel like they can be a fully contributing member of student government, and that to me is just, it's so unfortunate. And I was very glad to work with some new senators this year who approached me and to help them understand like how to write legislation, how to go about projects. And I was so glad to provide that information. And I think that this really goes back to having a very comprehensive senator training. But that's a genuine problem that seems to persist from year to year.
Do you yield?
Yeah, thank you. I yield.
Senator Nadeem, what's your point of personal privilege? Unmute yourself.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, go. You're fine. Senator Liverpool.
Hi, Typhoon.
Hi.
So you stated that the speaker speaks for the Senate, as well as yourself as a representative of the legislative body. So I would just like to hear a little bit of why and how you would be able to be the best representative for this body. I know that you spoke to questions such as why you are kind of different from the other candidates and what you would like to change, but why would you be the best representative?
All right. I think that I'm someone who highly values accountability, and I want to keep myself accountable to the Senate and senators on it. And so by always checking in with senators and perhaps having those periodic anonymous surveys, I really want to make sure that I'm never diverging from what senators actually believe in any of like the very public communications I have to the overall student body. And I think that that is also one thing that sets me apart. I always want to be going back to senators and looping them in with that type of communication. And I think that the Senate bill I passed with former Senator Christopher Liu, it is a testament to that. So, and that way, I realize that I'm the designated representative for you, but I always do want to be checking back in.
Great. Do you yield, Senator Liverpool?
Thank you. I'm going to yield to Kamel.
Hey, Typhoon, thanks for coming. I just have one question, kind of brief. How do you plan on prioritizing the Elections and Rules Task Force?
So some of that I'm going to defer to the parliamentarian as they're the one leading it. But in terms of prioritizing, do you mean the tasks that the Election and Rules Task Force has to complete?
Yeah, as kind of the person in charge of the legislative branch, do you have a vision for, some of the things that they'll be working on?
Yeah, so I think for sure they need to work on the two things that they have been directed to do, and both of our different bills, one of them about the constituency, and but then also about the appeals process. Besides that, there are other inconsistencies within our governing documents between the Constitution and the bylaws. Micah and I have had disagreements on interpretation of voting, just like what's the requirement for a vote in some cases. And to me, that's so critical that if we can't agree on something like that, I think that also needs to be addressed by the Elections and Rules Task Force.
Thank you.
Senator Liverpool, you still have the floor.
I yield the remainder of my time to Connor.
Hi, so this is a question we've asked all the candidates. It has to do with attendance. So this year, I would say that attendance has been a pretty big challenge for the Senate in regards to how the speaker deals with it, as well as just getting senators to come consistently. So in that, there's been sort of a conflict between the statutory obligations and the sort of greater needs of the office.
Currently, my sound, I can't hear anything. So if you call my name, I can't hear you. I gotta hang up.
Devon, can you hear us?
Working right now.
I think Devon should be on mute. Connor, continue.
Okay, so are you good with my lead up to the question up until now?
Yes, I think so.
Sure. So there's been an attendance thing, and the way that Micah innovated around it was he changed some internal policy. How would you, as speaker, try to navigate that challenge between your statutory obligation and the needs of the individual senators?
Yeah, so actually Micah explained that situation to me, that, granting, one exception to one senator, led to other instances. And I think that it's so difficult, but attendance is something I've considered. I was the one who established an attendance policy for senators on the PPMs, and I as well couldn't bring legislation for months to the student government, the Senate, because it wouldn't pass, because it needs like 12 yeses for a bylaws change. That's so difficult, and I think that I would need to work with senators on a case-by-case basis. And I don't have a good answer for you. I think that that's a really complex issue, and it depends on the individual circumstances students are facing. If a senator has a foreseeable, or does not have any foreseeable time in which their situation will change, there are lots of other ways to still be involved in student government. And I'm going to make sure that they have all of their options so that they feel supported, but that they also feel like they don't have to stay on as a senator. That's the best answer I can provide you at this time.
Senator Liverpool, do you yield?
Yes.
Senator Rogers.
I apologize for the interruption. My sound, I couldn't hear any of you. I just saw people mouths move, that's why I had to hang up and interrupt.
Oh, can you?
Okay. Now that I'm talking to Typhoon. One role as speaker, you are more goes into interpretation of the bylaws and the rules that we set forth in the PPMs and other things. Do you feel like you're more progressive? You're more. Do you believe your interpretation of the rules will be more to the situation at hand, or you be hardcore sticks to the wording of what we read about? Or do you feel like do you feel like the interpretation of the rules should be available to be flexible with what's going on?
Yeah, so I think that I'm neither of the extremes that you propose. I'm somewhere in the middle. I would say that I'm a bit more of a literal interpretation than Micah, but I'm still, I would say, flexible. I would still say that, motioning to discuss a bill is the same as it being on the table for a week than to actually motion to table it for a week. That being said, I'm not trying to, my goal is to run meetings efficiently, and if I foresee, a problem with how that occurs, I'm going to let senators know, here's how, you can motion to overrule any interpretation, and here's how you can hopefully keep the meeting running smoothly. I would say I'm similar to Micah, but slightly more on the side where I'd like to stay where the words mean. I don't like to deviate too far with interpretation.
Do you yield, Senator Rogers?
I yield.
Senator Arkin.
Is anybody else in the gallery, or anybody wants to be there?
I have nobody on the list. I'm one senator after you.
Okay, then quick question. Do you think passing legislation with consensus is important? Meaning that if we have to spend much longer discussing a bill to pass it with consensus, would you encourage us to do it as opposed to having a slightly split vote? Just answer briefly because one more person behind me.
All right. I think it's important for senators to be able to explain their votes if students ask. And usually speakers have the discretion, unless someone makes a specific motion to vote, that the speaker decides motion to vote by roll call or motion by unanimous consent. I think that on important votes, I think it's important that even if there's a split vote, that senators have that students can go and see that and see the record for how their representative represented them. I think that that's an important part of democracy. And I think that even if there's a split vote, it should occur that way.
Okay, yield.
Senator Tulloch.
My question is COVID related. I definitely think that next year we're going to be going through a very difficult transition, and a lot of the current Senate structure is not going to be able to run the same way or exactly the same way. And it's definitely going to take some unique transversing in order to get through it. So as Speaker, how will you be holding your senators accountable? And also, have you thought about any ways that we can make sure that students are supported through this time?
All right, so I'm gonna to answer your questions in order. So how to make sure that senators are accountable. I'm going to request that as speaker, I'm going to lay out guidelines for attendance, and then the Senate ultimately, by consensus, adopts them or not. And so I think that with those attendance policy, I'm going to have it quite lenient, obviously, so that but I will want some, to preserve accountability, I'm going to request maybe at least some like 12 hours, 24 hours beforehand notice. And of course, emergencies happen. I think that's how to approach attendance while also trying to keep senators accountable. In terms of how to support students, I think that the work that Justina and Leah are already talking about is great in terms of reaching out to ResLife individually. It's something that I've already done, but coordinating that with them is something that I'm going to hopefully look forward to, whether or not I get the speakership role.
Andre, do you yield?
I yield.
Great, that's the end of the whole time. I'm going to kick Typhoon out. We're going to have 10 minutes of discussion without Typhoon here.
Bye.
Typhoon.
Bye, Typhoon.
Going to move you to speaker candidates. As soon as Typhoon is left, we will have discussion. I believe he is left. Let me just check to make sure. Okay, is there any discussion? Senator Liang.
First, great questions, everyone. I'm very pleased. I think this was probably like one of the more revealing ones. I think, I guess like something about fairness is that we didn't get to ask the same questions, which is unfortunate, but I think Typhoon so far has given me what I believe to be the clearest and most well thought out answers. I think whenever someone makes a statement, my first initial instinct is, okay, how? Like, how is the thing that you're saying going to happen? And then the second thing is like, okay, but why should that thing actually happen? And I think Typhoon has so far, and Alexander to some extent, have been the only people that have actually given me that. The second thing is to note, in regards to the answer to one of the questions, I think that this might be a difference between people. I personally believe, or I personally agree with Typhoon's answer regarding consensus. I think with things that are really, really important, we should be able to move to a vote and disagree and still pass legislation. And I think that's probably something that a lot of us are going to disagree on, I guess like as a Senate body, but that's like where I stand. I think that's something really important that we should have, I guess, an opinion on. I yield.
Great. Senator Baker. Be sure to unmute yourself.
Hi, okay. So I think that Typhoon offers really good qualities. I have no question that if he were a speaker, things would be very efficient and effective. So I, in many ways, second what Amanda just said. With that said, I think his qualities are not just useful in the speaker's position. So I think it's important to consider, is this someone that we want on student government versus is this someone that we want in this specific role, right? So that's just my thoughts, but he's definitely a great candidate.
Do you yield?
Yes.
Senator Cosme.
Yeah, I genuinely felt like Typhoon had a lot more clarity, and also his response to most of the questions was very direct in terms of having a comprehensive set of ideas that he wanted to work on and how he wanted to work on them. I think there was just a teeny tiny bit of vagueness in terms of consensus, in terms of procedural work, but I think that'll very much be clarified when we eventually do get to Senate. And I think one of the key elements from the entire conversation, both his platform and the 20-minute question and answer session, was that he does understand the system and his responsibility valuable, but also not that, he also understands how to connect with the student body in terms of the Senate and the student body in terms of understanding what our needs are as the senators and also understanding the needs of the student body. So I think at the core, there's a very positive impression, and I think the degree to which he was very comprehensive, succinct, and specific in terms of his course of action was very impressive.
Deal?
Yeah.
Just a reminder to be brief, everyone, and not repeat other people or yourself. Senator Rogers. Senator Rogers?
Yeah, sorry. Basically, from my experience, Typhoon coming into the Senate, he's definitely through his experience with SA and being a senator and working in LA, he's definitely become an extensive legislative writer, specifically anything legislation wise in the past couple of this last past Senate year. From my experience, he has been increasingly commenting, looking through his perspectives. Very detailed in his approach. He's one person I know that even though he's not going to get 100% of what his project going at, he'll fight every single percent after that, and he's continuing to push and be consistent. And I'm blanking on what I was supposed to say. And I yield to Rita. Sorry,
Rita.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be called on that quick. Sorry. One thing I've noticed, I've also kind of worked with Typhoon the past 4 years, and something I've noticed in Senate too, is that sometimes like people tend to get bogged down with like the procedures and rules and kind of forget about the content and the reason why they're trying to pass this legislation for one reason or another. And I think Typhoon is definitely one of those people. I think I've noticed it before. He's gotten a lot better, but in the beginning, he was really into the specifics of certain things that personally I think matter less than actually, I guess, completing the task at hand. So that kind of worries me. Like, I think being in charge of Senate, I think whether you guys think it's a good thing or not, like I think Robert's rules will be like 100% accurate. Like it probably will be a lot different from how it's being run right now. But I think that could be a good thing or a bad thing. It might take more time. But yeah, that's just something I've noticed over the course of my 4 years working with him.
Senator Rogers, you gotta unmute yourself.
I also use Leif if he wants to speak.
Leif.
Hi guys, sorry about that. So I wanted to say things about both other candidates too, so I don't mean to only say something about Typhoon, and I don't want you to think that I've been biased towards him and not other candidates, but I just forgot to get on the speakers list earlier. Anyway, Typhoon is one of the most brilliant legal minds I have ever come across. He, leaves no stone unturned, and you probably could, for those of you that haven't worked with him before, probably could get a very clear vibe of that just from the way he presents himself, and he's extremely detailed, extremely specific. And so someone like that, I think, would be an extremely effective parliamentarian. I don't want to say one way or another about whether he would be an extremely effective speaker or not. I could imagine that he could potentially do well in the role, but I do want to point out that he spent a lot of time talking about those kind of nitty-gritty details about legislation and policy work. And the job is certainly partially that, but it's also a lot of interpersonal work, a lot of just trying to get personalities to jive together and stuff like that. And the parliamentarian can always be there to be that brilliant legal mind backing up a lot of what's going on. So I would encourage you to consider him for that position. And I mean, obviously consider him for speaker as well. But I think within that role, he could be really effective. I'll shut up.
Senator Rogers, you still have the floor.
I yield.
Senator Hawk.
Yeah, so I had the similar points that he has a very organized approach and a very no bullshit personality, and understanding of legislation essay is extremely great. But also to echo Rita and Leif's points, I feel like there might be some places where he might fit into a parliamentarian role better than a speaker's.
Deal. Senator Nadeem, that's what we'll lead.
I would just like to say I felt like Typhoon was really approachable, really motivated on what he wanted to do in the student government. And he definitely has the experience for the job, I think. And I felt like he was really composed and his ideas were in harmony. So I definitely liked him for the role. I would like to yield my time.
Senator Tome.
Yes, so I got to work with Senator Typhoon this past year too, and he's really, as he said, very persistent, and that's something that I really appreciated. He was one of the very few people who started something and fall through on it. I remember him following up on emails, and I really liked that. And I remember that he was one of the most passionate and dedicated people I've ever worked with. Remember, we were writing a statement on behalf of the whole Senate, and only him and I showed up, and we worked for probably 5 or 6 hours on that statement. And he's just extremely dedicated, and I could really see him caring about accountability just because he does follow up and follow through on things a lot. I yield.
Senator Arkin.
So in his speech, I've heard a lot about great legislation. I haven't heard much about fixing the work between senators or a conflict resolution or project management. So I second or triple second the parliamentarian for Typhoon, where he would actually be able to teach us how to be senators in according to the law.
Senator Tulloch.
My point was already said. I yield.
Senator Leong.
This is more of a question for, I guess, like you, Micah, or I guess like everyone. I have no idea. The role of the speaker is effectively like, I guess, like what the speaker makes it to be. Am I understanding that correctly? I feel like I've been told many different things, and then like that's like the open question, and the second question is like, okay, like do we want a speaker who's going to be able to teach us and transition us? Question mark. I yield.
Senator Liverpool. Unmute.
Hi, sorry. To Amanda's, oh, this is really,
Be quick.
okay, sorry. Oh, no. I just want to say that Typhoon said that he would be able to settle disputes, and I don't think that that is true. I have seen him escalate tensions a lot through the Senate.
Sorry to cut you off there, but our time has elapsed. We're now going to move into an hour, up to an hour, not necessarily a full hour, but up to an hour of discussion on all of the candidates. We're going to have quite the speakers list here, I'm assuming, but people who were already on the speakers list do not count as being on the speakers list. I will strongly suggest at this point that you move into executive session if you choose to. For those of you who don't know, executive session means that basically nobody can sort of discuss with the outside world what's going on, either during executive session or anytime in the future. You can't say what happened in executive session. Also, we will stop recording. Also, we will kick out anybody who is not automatically allowed in an executive session or included in your motion as being allowed in an executive session. Having said that, is there a motion?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Do you plan on halting the use of like digital communication other than this meeting?
I will suggest that to the extent possible. It's kind of tough because we don't, because you might need to contact me, for example, to say that your Wi-Fi cut out and you need to get back in. I will allow you to get back in if your Wi-Fi cuts out. But otherwise, I would strongly suggest not communicating with the outside world in any way for an executive session.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? I'm going to go with Senator Tome.
Thank you. Finally, I get like first, but motion to move into executive session, including past and current speakers and deputy speakers, chairs, outgoing and incoming executive leadership, parliamentarian and deputy parliamentarian, former and current senators, any legislative advisors, and SA government advisors. I hope I got everyone.
So am I correct in saying that that is the exact same as everyone who's required to be included, in addition to any current and former speakers and deputy speakers?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
Seconded.
That's like everyone's raising their hand. I'll give it to Senator Tulloch. Sorry, Mike. Is there any discussion on this motion to enter executive session? If there's no discussion, Lumi is raising their hand. Does someone want to yield to Lumi? Everyone's hand is raised. Senator Tulloch, do you maybe want to yield to people? Senator Tulloch, you have the floor.
I yield to Lumi.
Hey, just on executive session, just a big reminder before we enter it. Please remember the rules. What happens in executive session literally has to stay in executive session. You, like, I just want to make sure that that's drilled in because it's just that important. I yield.
Great. Senator Tulloch, do you want to yield to anyone else?
I yield to Leif.
Leif?
I don't have anything to say. My hand was raised for when we actually start discussion.
Great. I'm going to put everyone's. I suggest you lower your hand unless you have something to say about executive session. Senator Tulloch, you still have the floor.
I yield.
Anybody else wishing to speak about executive session? Seeing none, we are going to move into a vote on executive session. I believe let's do it by unanimous consent. Is there any dissent on moving into executive session in the current motion? Seeing no dissent, we're going to enter executive session. By my count, hold on, I'm going to see who isn't included in the motion. I believe that is it maybe among the people here, just Lumi and Fiona, I believe? So sorry to the two of you.
Wait, Han, I think, didn't Leah include us as LAs?
Yes.
You said LAs, Leah?
She did.
She did.
Okay, then both of you are included.
And Fiona is also the deputy speaker.
No, Fiona is Isha's deputy speaker. Fiona is deputy chair.
Oh, deputy. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yep. Okay, now I'm going to enter executive session, which means that I'm going to end the recording.
Micah, did we agree to keep Leif?
Former speakers.
Former speakers, plural, my mistake.
Yep. Connor, whenever you're ready, you can reveal the results of the ballot.
Okay, as a disclaimer, this was approval-based voting, and some people voted for multiple candidates, so that means that there are more votes than there were people who voted. Is everyone cool on that before I begin?
Yep.
Okay. Typhoon received 2 votes, Cesar received 0 votes, and Alexander received 11 votes. So congratulations, Alexander.
I want to thank everyone, and I'll leave this probably to Alexander, but there will be Senate again next week, likely far less lengthy, but it will be at 8 p.m. on Monday. Having said that,
I can guarantee it will be less lengthy, just so we're clear on that.
Yes. Thank you all for everything you've done. It's been fantastic, and I've loved being speaker. Good luck next year on Senate, and good night.
Thank you, Micah. Congratulations, Alexander.
Everyone. Congrats, Alexander.
Alexander.
Congratulations, Alexander.
Congrats, Xander.
Thank you all.
Monday.
Everyone.